Minority rights group Black Lives Matter, remember them? Well, it sparked international outrage over their response to the horrendous ongoing conflict in Israel after a BLM Chicago page yesterday shared the following post. Featuring a sickening cartoon of a paraglider, the graphic seems to celebrate the Hamas terrorists that used paragliders to brutally execute more than 260 terrified revelers at a music festival on Saturday, marking the worst civilian massacre in Israel's history. BLM's UK offshoot has been pumping out propaganda against Israel, offering solidarity to Palestine and slamming Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy for, quote, siding with the oppressor in his recent condemnation of the proscribed terror group, Hamas. Nigel, welcome back to the show. Now, as Black Lives Matter groups post pictures of paragliders, they refuse to condemn Hamas, etc., is this proof, actually, that BLM is less about racial equality and is more about the promotion of division, terror and violence?
In 2020, after the George Floyd murder, within 24 hours, we had police taking the knee, we had the desecration of the cenotaph, we had Winston Churchill's statue being attacked, and I was pretty much a lone voice, Patrick, in saying, I know these people, I've seen them in America, they are an overtly Marxist, dangerous organisation intent on bringing down Western civilization as we know it. And I said these things because that's what they said on their own website. But of course, the world went mad. Everybody came out supporting BLM, all the big corporates, Starbucks, the banks, everybody. And I was sacked from LBC. Sacked from LBC for daring to tell the truth. Well, one of my problems in life is I tend to be a little bit ahead of the curve. But the truth of it is becoming clear. And yeah, we can see absolutely from BLM UK and from this chapter in Chicago, who they really are. And worth mentioning, of course, Patrice Cullors, the sort of founder of the whole thing, finished up owning millions of pounds of property. One of the people involved in toppling the statue into the dock in Bristol, the Colston, the slave trader, former slave trader, but also philanthropist. She's been found guilty of absconding with 30,000 quid. The whole organisation is corrupt, rotten to the core, and yet, the upper echelons of British society were so taken in by it that still the England football team take the knee, a BLM gesture.
Yeah. And presumably that needs to stop now. I mean, at what point are we going to say as a society that we can all accept, absolutely, so Black lives do matter, but the organisation Black Lives Matter is something completely different, and I think we should be distanced from wider right-thinking society, no?
Look, 100 years ago, what the Leninist Marxists did in Russia was to use class as a means of fomenting division. What the modern day Marxists are doing is they're using race and using white guilt as a means literally of destroying our society. This organisation is mad, bad, dangerous, and I'm pleased that we're now having a chance to call it out. And funny thing is, Patrick, this conversation you and I are having will not lead to outrage in tomorrow morning's newspapers, because everyone knows that actually I was right 3 years ago on this. They were wrong. Not that they would ever admit it.
No, I mean, do you think you deserve an apology for that?
I deserve an apology for many things over the years. I deserve an apology from virtually everybody over, the condemnation of me in 2020. I was right about this organisation. And look, the worry is, of course, they're not alone. The worry is there are now voices in the radical Islamic world calling for a day of action next Friday.
Yeah.
And by that, they don't just mean what's going on in Gaza. They mean actually in our country as well. And the next time 500 people cross the English Channel, when the weather improves next week, we must then ask ourselves a question. Given that these young men have come from countries that have fostered ISIS, Hamas, and that they throw their documents into the English Channel, we must ask ourselves, how many people are we allowing into Britain that will ultimately do us very great harm?
Yeah, I think that is a question now, as I showed a clip a little bit earlier on of an asylum seeker camp on one of the Greek islands who are openly celebrating what was going on in Israel. Those people, as it currently stands, are ready and waiting to be distributed across the European Union and possibly will end up on boats across the Channel in Britain. Yep. You just have to wonder, why on earth are we doing this to ourselves? I just want to read a tweet published today by this Black Lives Matter Chicago group. So they said this. They went, yesterday we sent out messages that we aren't proud of. That's interesting. We stand with Palestine and the people who will do what they must to live free. Our hearts are with the grieving mothers, those rescuing babies from rubble who are in danger of being wiped out completely. So that was their response there. I'll be honest with you, it doesn't really look like they were actually that ashamed of their initial tweet, does it, when you read that? But